Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Nugget Bridge Invitational Finals. We have Plusle and Bopper, two of the Invitational finalists, ready to duke it out here in a best of three series for the title of Nugget Bridge Invitational Champion. Uh, their teams, Plusle is using what you see there, a Cresselia Thunderous Incarnate, a Rotom Washing Machine, Escavalier, Hitmontop, and Tyranitar. Bopper will be on the bottom using Cresselia, Excadrill, Thunderstarian, Tyranitar, Amoonguss, and Gyarados. Scott, what do you think?
I'm kind of excited. Mr. Bopper, we got to see a bit of him before. We got like one game of his second round series, I believe it was. He has a lot of really fun Pokemon. His Excadrill, we didn't get to see too much of it, but it was certainly using an irregular EV spread. I'll leave it at that. His Gyarados, who I think is one of the more interesting Pokemon to watch. Some of his Pokemon reminded us a bit of Dimitri's team at Nationals with Gyarados and Shroom and the ground type and Tyranitar. So I think that'll be really fun to watch. It's a lot of Pokemon I think are exciting because they can both do a lot of damage or get taken out sort of easily sometimes. So we should be able to go pretty. The battle could go a lot of different ways. And then we saw Plusle's team most recently on the stream, but maybe we'll get to see some interesting things here. I think that Plusle's team matches up with Mr. Bopper's team differently than the way it matched up with Cybertron's team. So it's more likely we'll get to see some of the Pokemon we didn't see much of in the previous series, such as Rotom W, who I expect that we will see to help deal with Gyarados and Excadrill, who it matches up really well with.
Now, we saw Plusle use Trick Room against his Cybertron. Do you think he needs to do that here?
I think it'd be really. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I think it'll be difficult. Mr. Bopper's team's pretty well crafted, and I think it'll be challenging for him to succeed at that because of Amoonguss kind of blocking the whole Trick Room thing with its low speed. Escavalier will help with that a bit, but it's still tricky to deal with. So he may choose to go the Thunderwave route instead. Except he can't because Excadrill can't be paralyzed and Thundurus 2 can't be paralyzed. So he's either going to have to just kind of like paralyze the other stuff and just try to play around Excadrill and Thundurus T and typing, or maybe risk a more dangerous Trick Room where he can't underspeed Amoonguss with most of his Pokemon. Like, I don't know. I feel like if I'm Plusle in this game, maybe I don't lean too hard on the speed control game because there's flaws no matter which way he tries to go about doing it. Instead, maybe try to play the typing matchups a little bit more. I guess the implication there is that I think Mr. Bopper's matchup's probably a little bit better, especially because I imagine that he's got some tricks that Plusle probably doesn't know. So while Plusle seems a little bit more straightforward, and I feel like by just reading it in preview, you probably get most of what you need, that is definitely not true of Mr. Bopper's team, and that'll make it much more difficult to play against in Game 1 and maybe Game 2, where Plusle still has to just focus on getting information instead of just countering his team, whereas Mr. Bopper probably he can move right on to, okay, this is what I see, this is how I need to counter it. Plusle can't necessarily believe his eyes yet. He's got to figure out what he's looking at before he can move on to countering it.
Now, Gyarados is a Pokemon we don't really see very often. What do you think about Gyarados, and is it a good Pokemon that people aren't using?
I love Gyarados. We've seen it run a little more defensively. I know Bears was using like the Water Gem, slightly more defensive version at the fall regionals, which I thought was great, and I really like that team. But it's never been something. It's one of those things. Just I wish I could play that sort of team, but I can't. And then more recently, we've been saying it with Choice Band a lot. I'm not sure what version Mr. Bopper is running, but I think both variants of Gyarados are really strong and difficult to deal with. I guess it's worth noting while we're talking about Gyarados, you got to give the shout out to Hui and the ridiculous special attacker Gyarados with his Hail team, but definitely not the sort of Pokemon we're going to see in a team like this one. In this matchup, we do see three ridiculous purple shinies actually, which makes me really, really little disappointed that Hitmontop isn't also its disgusting pink purple shiny, because then they would all match. At least they all have some blue. But a better turn one for Mr. Bopper's side, I think. Even though Thundurus T is not going to want to deal with whatever ice move Cresselia is going to throw at it, just because you've got the flying Pokemon out against the fighting Pokemon, and then a psychic Pokemon out against the fighting Pokemon. Dangerous turn one for poor blue Hitmontop here.
Now, I'm reading that Plusle wants to, do a Trick Room here, fake out in Trick Room. Uh, I'm assuming Bopper is going to be able to counter that. Do you think so?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious what moves the Cresselia has in Bopper's side because that influences options a lot. If he's got Trick Room, he could just flip it, which would put a kink in any sort of strategy related to that a lot. It depending on where the fake out goes, either a hidden power or a thunderbolt or a Psyshock from Cresselia onto Hitmontop would do some great easy damage. If he does have Trick Room, he could do either of those things and then Trick Room next turn as Plusle tries to bring a sweeper in. So, I mean, you would assume it's a Trick Room setup with the fake out Pokemon and the Trick Room user, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be successful here. And I think, with using something like fake out rather than Volt Switch or U-turn to set up your Trick Room, there's going to be momentum issues here if the enemy Cresselia is carrying Trick Room. Bopper also has the option of just switching to Amoonguss if he's smelling the Trick Room setup as well.
Now, we've seen Hidden Power flying from that Thunderous in a previous round, so I assume it's going to be threatening that Hitmontop. Is there a reason to keep that Hitmontop in?
Apparently
Okay,
there is.
here we go. He's going to fake out that Thunderous, and that Hitmontop is a bulky Hitmontop, so should be able to take an attack from Cresselia. He double targets, and wow, Plusle may have predicted that. Big move by Plusle to, not reverse his own Trick Room.
Yeah, oops. I guess that's how I would describe that turn. Mr. Bopper probably expecting the Trick Room on the other side there and trying to Trick Room to Trick Room. And this is why Trick Room as a move is not a good counter for other Trick Rooms. As you're playing the guessing game, and usually it's the non-Trick Room team that loses at these. Lots of free damage from Plusle's side, and he gets the Trick Room up for free. I mean, there's another awkward turn here where, is Bopper going to Trick Room again to try to, reverse it? And, where Plusle could try to Trick Room to... we have a complicated series of Trick Rooms here, I guess is what I'm getting at. But probably not what he was hoping for there, especially because Cresselia is threatening Thunderous now.
And here comes Escavalier for the Hitmontop. One of the best Trick Room sweepers. And Thunderous is not going to have any of that. Switching out for Gyarados, our favorite shiny. Getting an Intimidate off on the Escavalier, which is probably big in the future, right, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, Escavalier, if it's using Bug Gem, which is the standard item for Escavaliers, it is capable of knocking out Cresselia in a single blow. So important to get an Intimidate off, prevent that one-hit KO opportunity unless a Helping Hand is used. And Mr. Bopper is able to correct his own mistake there and get the Trick Room back off the field. So in spite of the awkward turn one there, he actually ends up in a good spot. Because of speeds being reversed the previous turn, he switches first instead of second and gets that second instead of first rather, and gets the Intimidate off on his Cavalier. So the speed control actually helped him for switch order of all things. And he does end up with Gyarados on the field against Cresselia and Escavalier, neither of which are going to be able to do much damage to it, and Trick Room off the field. So inexplicably, Mr. Bopper ends up in a good spot there off of his own little gaff, other than poor Thunderous taking a bunch of damage for his sins.
We'll just assume that he planned that from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of foresight you see here in the finals of the Nugget Bridge Invitational. He planned that Trick Room just to switch in the right order.
I mean, it put Plusle, he felt he had an advantage to get his Escavalier in, and now he's got a weakened Escavalier that can't do much damage to, a really strong Pokemon in Gyarados.
It's actually a pretty good bait.
Yeah.
But here's hoping Gyarados is running Fire Blast, to smash that snail into smithereens. But I doubt it. I'm eager to see what we're going to see here. It looks like it is bulky, but that doesn't necessarily tell you a whole lot. We do know it's not the max speed, max attack choice band thing, but it could be a bulkier choice band version. It could be a support set. We'll soon see. I think Gyarados can do a bunch of different things well, and that's part of why it's so scary. As long as you can keep it away from those electric Pokemon, such as Rotom W on Plusle's side, who I wouldn't be too surprised if we see here if it's been picked.
Bopper still deciding what to do with his Cresselia. Either leave it in, take an attack, or switch it out for something. And Plusle switching in that Rotom that you predicted. And we finally see the Gyarados. It's a Dragon Dance. Not something you see very often on a Pokemon you don't see very often. And Psyshock, it's going to do negligible damage to this Escavalier. Uh, and here comes Megahorn, which gets avoided as usual because 85% moves never hit.
A devastating miss, though. Even with the Intimidate, Megahorn from Escavalier would have absolutely ravaged that Cresselia. And that's some important damage to get for Plusle's side because it's a Pokemon that's pretty irritating for most of the Pokemon he selected. So not getting that off is terrible, especially because Gyarados gets that free Dragon Dance. I mean, free is probably in quotation marks here because nothing is too free when you've got Rotom staring you down. But we do learn a bit about Gyarados. He's got the bulky Dragon Dance thing going on. Not something we see too often in doubles, but something that I think can work. Like, most stat-up moves are a little dangerous other than Swords Dance and doubles we've seen success with on Scissor and Excadrill. But I think Dragon Dance is usable. Tyranitar has done pretty well with it, and now we see it from Gyarados too. Observant readers of Nugget Bridge might also note that Gyarados using Dragon Dance was something that Honchkrow used in his team report that we published on Thursday. So, great minds think alike, apparently. But Rotom W probably not very amused.
Yeah, even with the +1, which is essentially a choice scarf and a choice band at the same time, Rotom probably tank anything that's going to be thrown at it, and Gyarados isn't going to like that. So here comes Plusle switching to another Cresselia, his Cresselia, and Gyarados opting to protect itself, does not want to take anything from Rotom, which Rotom does target that Gyarados, and Bopper's going to get some damage on that Rotom before it does anything to Gyarados, which I think is a smart move by him.
Yeah, it's definitely the right play there. Just got to find a way to slowly wear that down before it blows Gyarados up here. I wouldn't be surprised if Gyarados has to waste its Dragon Dance and switch out here pending the coverage move. I'm not exactly sure how much +1 Double Edge would do if he has it. I know Honchkrow used Return or Frustration, I forget which one, but I don't think that would be able to pick up the knockout obliterated by Thunderbolt here, so I wouldn't expect to see that. But we could see more Psyshock damage in a switch here. Or I guess it could be a Wakan Berry still too, so there's that.
And there's always the switch to Thun-T, which Bopper did bring, and it wouldn't do anything to her Thundurus.
Yeah, it'd also heal it up too. One of the one drawback, I guess, of the way Mr. Bopper's first couple turns went is that Thundurus T took a bunch of damage on turn 1 because he mispredicted. So getting some of that health back would be a big deal as he progresses in this game, especially because Thundurus T would help him control both Cresselia and Rotom W, who are a little frustrating for his sweepers.
And we could, of course, see more Trick Room shenanigans because it seems like Plusle needs that Trick Room up, especially with this Cavalier on his team and a very fast Gyarados staring him down.
Yeah, both sides just kind of have to find a way to clear out those Pokemon that are threatening the sweeps. And I guess not the Pokemon that are stopping their sweepers is what I mean. With Gyarados on Bopper's side and Rotom W on Plusle's.
Rotom making an interesting switch to his Scavalier. We may see a big attack here from Bopper, a helping hand for his Gyarados, and a strong Water Gem Waterfall with the Dragon Dance behind it is going to target Escavalier and pick up a knockout. Looks like a big move there, but he does get his Trick Room up with his slower team.
And his disconnect. Oh, it's so frustrating too. Like, what an aggressive and beautiful prediction there. I mean, anytime you're popping the helping hand, boosted attack, it's pretty daring because if you hit a protect, you're in some trouble, having wasted both of your turns. But he doesn't do his counter. I think that Rotom survives that if he doesn't get the switch there, and certainly he would have been knocked out for it. So really aggressive play, but he risks it, he gets it, and then the Wi-Fi shuts him down. Oh, it's such a great play, though. Oh, I'm so frustrated by that. Gotta give him respect, though. I don't know exactly what they're gonna do to sort out this game and figure out how we're gonna handle game 1 of the final here. But I think we can all enjoy the spectacle of that turn there. Those are the turns you win tournaments on. Yeah, there's a close game up to that point. Both sides just kind of making their defensive switches, and then he opens it up at just the right moment. He picks up an important knockout on one of the most important sweepers on Plusle's side. Great play there. We did learn a bunch of fun information too. Gyarados does have the water gem, so I believe both Honchkrow and Bears fan were using water gem on it, though Bears was the more defensive set, while Honchkrow was a similar Dragon Dance variant. So wouldn't be too surprised if it's similar EVs, although I don't know Honchkrow's Gyarados spread off the top of my head. But still, fun plays there. I was hoping we'll get to see Gyarados just because I think it's an exciting Pokemon, and hopefully the audience agrees with me there. I think that was really fun.
Yeah, we're currently sorting what they're going to do because even though it was replayable, there was that Mega Horn miss. So, I mean, that Mega Horn hitting would have changed a lot. So, we'll see what they decide to do. I gave them both options, and we'll see what they go with because that was a big turn for Plusle if he got that hit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the game state was even at. Like, I feel like there wasn't that much damage done other than Thunder's T was low and Escavalier was knocked out, so probably wouldn't be that hard to remake if they want to, but yeah, we just try and work with the players here. I mean, one of the fun things about running online tournaments, it's not like we've got big monetary prizes, I guess, so the players can be a little looser about it, just do what they think is fair and sometimes simple, rather than stressing too much about, I guess, issues. Hopefully, we're right on the edge of Generation 6, so hopefully next generation things will be a little bit better. We'll have fewer of this sort of issues. I know Pokemon knows that it's a pain to try to run tournaments and stuff on their Wi-Fi right now, so I'm sure they'll do everything they can to help it out. It's gonna have to bear with what we've got.
All right,
else, more fun
from what I
matches.
can tell, they're going to recreate the match from that point where they DC'd. So we'll get a few turns where we'll see the exact same thing. But because it was such a good match up to that point, we gotta, give them the benefit of the doubt that, either player could have won that, and both players want to win from that spot. They both want to play from that spot, so they're gonna do that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the best way to do it if you can. Well, hopefully the audience can bear with us here, because sometimes this gets a little hairy trying to remake games with, it seems like everything that could go wrong in the RNG does when you just need to do the same thing it did the first time. So I'm sure, we'll constantly get critical hits and stuff as we try to remake this game, and like Ice Beam will freeze or something, but we'll do what we can. We had a lot of fun trying to remake one of these for I think the first Nugget Bridge Major, and I think it was one of Crow's matches, maybe one of Ben 7000's, where it took about 99 years, and I just imagine them having like 7 napkins worth of math about what they needed to do to remake the game, and I don't think it ever happened. This time, things will be different for sure.
Yeah, this isn't too hard to remake here because, outside of that Mega Horn miss, which I think they said they will be able to account for, that they can easily take care of this.
So misses are easy, right? The tough thing is crits, because you've got to figure out how to work in attacking twice. But misses are easy when you're trying to remake, because all you have to do is protect, assuming you weren't targeted that turn, or like use some other non-damaging move. So, and we immediately get a critical hit trying to remake the game.
Wow.
I did warn you guys about this, didn't I? Hate to say I told you so.
Yeah.
But I told you so.
I'll see what they want to do about that.
Sometimes I wonder why I play this game. Well, Paul takes a moment to cry rivers of tears into his tissues. I mean, like I said, hopefully we'll get through this as quickly as we can. If nothing else, we can all just take a moment and laugh at Pokemon, because this is a ridiculous game.
Yeah, I think they're going to restart it, unfortunately, because that crit was a lot of damage, and you don't want that kind of damage. Yeah.
Round 3, game 1, part 3,
Yeah.
something. This time it'll work. I mean, I guess if we're going to have weird RNG issues, at least this isn't a portion of the game where the crit doesn't matter, right? So it could be worse.
It could have been 4 turns in.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. I was thinking it'd be worse if it was like, actually on turn 1 for real and the crit mattered for the game. But yeah, you're right. It's like, okay, we're just 1 turn away from what we need to happening, and like, then the RNG broke, and like somehow Gyarados missed Waterfall, and yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah, so while we wait, we're proud to announce that we're bringing back the NPA, the National Pokemon Association, which is a team tournament on Nugget Bridge. Uh, there will be a draft, free agents, and all that good stuff that you know from the NBA and other professional sports leagues. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Manager signups will be going up July 29th. So if you're interested in managing, pay attention for that. And we'll be selecting 12 to 16 of the best managers we believe. And so stay tuned for that. It's always fun, exciting tournaments, especially team ones.
Yeah, definitely something worth checking out. Format-wise, for those of you who weren't around for NPA, when we did it like a year and a half ago, I think, right after 2011 Worlds. So it's 2 years ago now. I'm getting old. Um, it's a fun team tournament. The format is similar to Smogon Premier League, which I imagine most people are familiar with, though obviously with only VGC metagames in it, a lot more people get to play. Whereas in the SPL, it's pretty much just about 10 of us. So more people get into it. I think we'll end up with there's 6 roster slots, right? So between 12 to 16 teams, it's like just under 100 starting players and managers. So pretty good amount of players to get involved this time. It's really fun. I think having a team tournament where everyone actually plays VGC, it makes things a little bit more fun. You can help each other out. Yeah, camaraderie is fun. I think we sometimes we get half the team element, I would say, in VGC, where people work with each other while they're making teams and try to help each other out, and it's very much a social game. But when the tournament comes, while you're rooting for your friends, it's pretty much an individual event. So it's nice to get at least one tournament that's just kind of full on, like this is a team event all the way. And I think people will really enjoy NPA from that. You get to meet some new people, maybe team up with some people who you might not normally work with, and maybe learn some things from your teammates about how they build teams. If you and your friends do things a little bit differently, so it's a good experience, and I'd expect everyone will have a good time, and I'd suggest that people sign up. And even if you don't get picked for a team, you'll probably learn a lot from watching.
Yeah, even if you don't get picked in the draft, free agents will still be there. So, if someone ends up not playing too well, or, you could always prove yourself and get picked up by another team.
Yeah, we'll try and stream as many games as we can too. I know it's inconvenient when you're playing as much as you have to in a tournament like that to stream every match. So we have no intentions of doing that, but we are trying to get some more people experience with the commentary and to kind of build the whole streaming game in Pokemon a little bit. So hopefully during NPA, be a lot of fun exhibition matches between players who are pretty experienced at a point in the season where it doesn't hurt them to show things in an online tournament because all the real life tournaments will be over for the season. So hopefully we'll get some good matches there. We'll try and stream as much as we can, get commentary going as often as we can, try and put in a good show for everybody. I mean, because fundamentally, it's not for circuit points. There's not cash prizes. It's supposed to be a fun experience. A little showmanship, hopefully. So we'll try and make it as good of a spectator sport as we can, which I think Pokemon's usually good for.
And as they recreate this game, I really enjoy the NPA a lot. Every team tournament, like you said, you learn a lot about your team, and even if you meet a lot of people, because you usually get drafted with a bunch of people that you don't know, and so you learn about a lot of people and their team styles through NPA. And of course, it will be VGC 13 after Worlds, so you could bring out all your tricks and not have to worry about people scouting you for future tournaments, since XY should be coming out in October. And hopefully VGC will follow suit with the XY tournament soon.
A couple of things I noticed in Twitch chat. No managers don't get to play. We thought it'd be an unfair advantage for managers that maybe have or for teams that have managers that are a little bit more experienced as players. Like whatever team Ray's managing would have a bit of an advantage, for instance. So we didn't want that to be unfair. So the managers are just, managing. And there is the threat of the first 2014 season regional having the 2012 or 2013 rule set. But it is what it is, and there's still be months and months before that regional, so I don't think anyone's going to be too concerned about hiding stuff for that.
I think they're almost there to 2 more turns, I think.
I think it's just this turn, right?
Oh.
Yeah,
No, because Escavalier
well,
gets
yes.
knocked out,
Oh,
so it
yeah, you're
needs to
right.
get switched out.
Escavalier, what are you doing here? Go away, Escavalier. Unless I just chose to go about doing it a different way. Because I guess all that really
Yeah.
matters is the health bars. It doesn't. You don't get bonus points for doing it in the same amount of turns. In fact, if they could do it in fewer turns, I think that would be worth bonus points. They'll get like a shiny star or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they both win in my heart.
Yeah, I'll put a smiley face in your signature or something. But yeah, it looks like that's what they're doing. Okay. Tricky, tricky.
They're ahead of us.
This is where they get paid the big bucks. So it looks like we are about to get where we were. Presumably, Rotom will be replacing Escavalier in the original version of this battle, since Rotom was not out because it had been withdrawn for Escavalier, and I believe Cresselia was in the other slot. So should see Cresselia coming in here, and now the battle will resume.
And we're back. This is game 1.
All right, so yeah. So people who missed or may have gone AFK at an inopportune time there, we didn't have a DC. The DC is now over. The battle is resuming. So everything here is live. No more remakes.
Actually, I think they got one more turn.
What? What?
Yeah.
What?
I think so. I think so. Let's see what happens. Yeah. You're not going to helping hand protect. That's Nick McCord mode right there.
Well, Nick McCord is, a powerful Pokemon trainer with many, yeah, whatever. Oh, you. Or, right, Trick Room turns. That makes sense. I'm understanding now.
We are ready. Now we're back.
We rate this tournament battle 5 battle factories out of 5.
So now, okay, we have a +1 Gyarados staring down Cresselia and Rotom in Trick Room.
Yeah, it's the first turn of Trick Room for anyone who forgot it in the 97 minutes between Game 1 Part 1 and Game 1 Part 2.
You're Bopper. What do you do?
I switch. I click the button that says Pokemon and then Gyarados, and I pick anything at all. I guess one more thing to remind the audience with the game state. It's a 4-3 Bopper now. That was the first knockout. Thunderous T is a little bit weakened, and pretty much everything else in the game is healthy. So we've got a Hitmontop, Cavalier, Cresselia, and Rotom Washing Machine on Plusle side, though Cavalier was knocked out by the Waterfall, and Thunderous T, Gyarados, and Cresselia on the Bopper side, with the 4th Pokemon still a mystery. Potentially a good choice right now, actually.
I mean, if he goes to... He's got options there, but it depends on his switch, because if Plusle goes to Ice Beam a Thun T, then, you lose everything. But he opts for the Tyranitar, which is probably the safest switch in that situation.
Yeah. Wouldn't be too surprised to see a Hydro Pump here anticipating the switch, because I think Plusle knows that he would have to be crazy to leave Gyarados in and Trick Room with a Dragon Dance up.
And that Cresselia is slower than that Rotom. Yep, you saw this right. Let's see who he targets with his Water Gem Hydro Pump. He's going after Cresselia, not Tyranitar. Did not predict that switch. Does a little over 50%, and Citrus Berry is going to activate.
I don't mind that prediction. I assume that by what he did there, he was expecting Gyarados to protect and then switch the previous turn, though I don't think he could actually have done that in the remake because he'd protected the previous turn, even though he didn't in the real game. So he kind of had to switch there. But good position for Mr. Bopper now, even though the Trick Room was put up by Plusle side. Much like in the game that Plusle lost to Aaron, Mr. Bopper is in a position to use the Trick Room better than Plusle is now, assuming that it's slow Tyranitar and not fast Tyranitar. And it may well be fast Tyranitar because it's not the bulkiest looking Tyranitar I've ever seen.
Despite the same type attack bonus and Hydro Pump, Tyranitar really kind of doesn't care about Rotom usually.
Yeah, I mean, it'd survive water pump. No, I'm pretty sure it's called Hydro Pump. It survived that one from here, thanks to the special defense boost from Sandstorm, especially because the Water Gem was eaten up by poor Cresselia's face here. So not the most threatening situation for Bopper's side. Tyranitar could probably knock out one of the opponents pretty easily here.
We apparently the Tyranitar is Scarf, so it won't be going first.
Wouldn't be too surprised to see a Trick Room reversal then.
No, he opts to go for the side shock, so no Trick Room reversal. Trick Room is going to stay up, and Plusle's doing the Hydro Pump. This time on Cresselia again. He doesn't think the Tyranitar's a threat. And Rock Slide gonna take the knockout on the Rotom. Is that a mistake there? Because Bopper has that Gyarados in the back, which could flip this game around because he lost his Rotom, which was his Gyarados counter.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Escavalier knockout was the turning point in this game, but the longer this game goes, the more hope that seems to be getting squeezed out of it for Plusle here. Tyranitar still at full health. Gyarados still pretty much at full health. Fun T's been weakened a bit, but as soon as Trick Room goes up, or expires, I should say, it's going to be able to come out and do some pretty serious damage. I would be pretty concerned if I was Plusle here. At least Cresselia has been weakened enough that Hitmontop might be able to survive for a while, and it would be good against most of the Pokemon left on Mr. Bopper's team because of how weakened Thundurus T and Cresselia are. But it's still got to deal with Gyarados, so tough spot for Plusle. We did see Stone Edge before, so it's not helpless against Gyarados, but not a favorable matchup.
Plusle's Hitmontop is pretty bulky from what we've seen. It took Aaron's Hydreigon's Draco Meteor, and lived with a few HP. Could easily tank some moves from Cresselia and Tyranitar here.
Here's hoping it learned that critical hit fake out technique from the first remake and pops it out here.
Bopper opting to switch to his Gyarados, get Intimidate off to weaken whatever fake out or move that Hitmontop goes for. It's not going to fake out. Cresselia uses Ice Beam. There's your crit.
Cresselia, you're not the one who was supposed to crit.
The wrong Pokemon, and close combat with the Fighting Gem. It's not going to do too much damage here with that Intimidate on it.
Yeah, I get to enjoy the power of Gyarados a little bit there. Like, it was weakened a little bit before he got switched in there. Gets hit by that close combat. Still doesn't even fall into the yellow. Sandstorm will bring it close there, but wow, what a beast.
Gyarados showing its power here. Not, like we said, not a very used Pokemon, but, right here, definitely showing it could use that use because, it's tanking hits, and from what Plusle has, it can continue to tank hits.
Yeah, I mean, people kind of forget about it too, just because we're so used to it having the terrible offensive move pool. But Gyarados' stats are actually great. Like, all of its defensive stats are reasonably above average. Its attack score is good. It's got a great ability. I think its typing's even pretty good. It just was always kind of held back by having such a terrible combination of typing and move options. And it's still not great, but Waterfall is a really good stab attack. Just by virtue of not being able to miss, and the flinch chance is always fun in VGC. So I mean, it could be worse. And I think the way it's being used in this team is pretty clever. With all the bulk on it, can go in and out pretty easily and function really well as a defensive pivot between its typing to wall popular Pokemon like Hitmontop and Intimidate just to be a general nuisance, which is important because if you look at Plusle's team, we've got Escavalier, Hitmontop, and Tyranitar, who are all physical-based. So Intimidate's actually pretty good against that team. And two of his other Pokemon are Cresselia and Thundurus, who are both weak to this Tyranitar that's out right now, and who are a little bit more support-oriented. So I think you're looking at the two Pokemon on Mr. Bopper's side who are the most important for his victory in this series.
And this Tyranitar, he doesn't know what to do here because it is Scarf and Trick Room is up. So he's got a lot of options with what to do because that Hitmontop could easily knock out Tyranitar. So we'll see what they decide to do here because, even though he does seem to have the large advantage, Bopper could easily lose that due to a misplay.
And we may have just seen that here.
And there's a Psyshock on Gyarados, does okay damage, and Stone Edge should take the knockout because it hits. Yes. Gyarados will not survive that. Trinitar opts for crunch against Cresselia. Doing, knockout. Which is, I think that's big
That's a
for
bunch of
Bopper there.
damage from
Yeah.
Trinitar's crunch there. Bit more than I expected. But get to a 2-1 here. The Thunder is coming out at just the right moment here with Trick Room expiring to be able to be a factor. And Hitmontop's probably a little bit concerned there. It's had its defense dropped by close combat once already, and Thunder as will likely be able to close this one out. See it firing the hidden power off here.
Good game by both players. Hidden power should take the knockout easily because the -1 defenses. What sort of adjustments does Plusle need to make here?
Well, I mean, we saw in the previous series that he lost game 1 there and was fine. So I think just like that, he just kind of needs to, take an easy look at this, figure out what he needs to do. Like I said before, I think Gyarados and Tyranitar are the keys to victory for Mr. Bopper. So what Plusle's got to do in this transition period between game 1 and game 2 is figure out how he's going to best deal with this Pokemon. I would expect that Plusle has, figured that out long before me pointing it out in the stream here. So he had that whole reset time between the first and second half of game 1, where he knew he probably knew he was going to lose the first game there. I mean, he was in a pretty disadvantageous position. So he's had a bunch of time to figure out how he's going to clean this one up. So I would expect that he'll come back in this game with a better strategy. Hitmontop, I think, will be important. It beats Tyranitar 1-on-1, and it intimidates Gyarados and deals with Excadrill pretty well, too. Protecting it's a little more difficult because of Thundurus T and Cresselia, but I'd expect we'll see more of Top. If he can set up Trick Room and let his Cavalier fire away a few times this game, he would at least be able to knock Tyranitar out also, so that'd be an alternate way of dealing with it, but not such a good solution to Gyarados or Thundurus T. But it would be able to knock out Cresselia for Hitmontop. So, I mean, I think those are the main ways of dealing with Tyranitar for him, and then there's Gyarados is a little trickier to deal with just because it's really only Rotom W who can do a bunch of damage to it. So I think that team matchups probably won't change too much this time. It'll more be a matter of Plusle just having to find a better way of using his Pokemon to counter Mr. Boppers. Because as soon as one of those Pokemon that kind of like cross, like check, and I guess what I'm trying to say is all the Pokemon on both sides, I think they picked the right Pokemon, but there's a series of checks, like one Pokemon on one team checks another one on the other side that would be able to get out of hand. So as soon as you lose something in the chain, it's a big advantage for the other side. So both sides are going to be careful not to give up an early knockout the way Plusle did in the previous game. And I think that's probably what's going to determine game 2 here.
Now, we said earlier that Tyranitar was Scarf, but I think we actually is incorrect, and it is a Dragon Dance Tyranitar, which makes Bopper's team really interesting. He has a 2 stat up Pokemon, potentially a third in Excadrill, with a great protection in Amoonguss. You think we'll see some more of that Dragon Dancing?
I guess we'd be surprised if we didn't, right? I actually think it's a really cool team concept. I've been wondering when you mentioned the Scarf thing, because I could have sworn I heard Dragon Dance before I started casting, but I think it's a really cool concept. You've got the support Pokemon in Amoonguss, which also buffers your Trick Room mode, which Cresselia can run. And then you've got Gyarados and Tyranitar, who naturally aren't incredibly fast, but can become quicker with Dragon Dance. But if you don't use Dragon Dance to get that speed control, you probably start slower than most good stuff teams and can just use Trick Room to be faster than them that way. So I think the concept of this team is pretty fun because you've got a more interesting way, I guess, of being faster or slower than the opposing team than just the typical I'm using Cresselia for Trick Room and Thundurus Eye for my fast mode thing. This is a little bit more intricate, I guess. And the more intricate your team is, the easier it is for the wheels to fall off the bus usually. But it's a really fun team, and it's worked pretty well for him so far. So even though maybe not the most consistent-looking team I've ever seen, really cool concept. I'm not surprised that it's doing well for him. Definitely something that would be difficult to counter if you weren't sure what was coming.
He's got, the great defensive pivots, and combine that with the stat up moves, you can really pile it on. It's a different way to play offense than what we've seen from Aaron Zhang earlier today. It may be a little bit harder to do, but it may be a little more consistent because it can sort of gain that momentum back with the defensive pivots and maybe a little bit better stat up moves, and then you still have trick room options and all that stuff going on in this team. I really like this team.
See, I mentioned it wasn't the most consistent thing in the world just because of the stat up moves, but I think it is worth noting. I mean, you make a good point there with the bulk. Even though you think of it as an offensive team, the extra drill we saw in the previous series was pretty bulky. Gyarados, incredibly bulky. Tyranitar, naturally bulky. Amoonguss, one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the game. Like, there's a lot of defensive investment here. Like, it's a tough team to knock out, but it also has the ability to turn that, flip that switch and become something you think of as more offensive because Thunderous T just does it naturally, and there's boosting moves on two of the other sweepers at least. So, interesting balance of offense and defense there, even though he has to invest some turns into transitioning. Really cool concept. So I love in these sort of show match tournaments like the Invitational, where, I mean, you want to win because of pride and like there's some amount of prize, but a lot of it is just about kind of giving a good show for everybody. It's the sort of thing I like to see. A clever team, but it's clever in a way that will work. Whereas sometimes it's just clever in a way that people are trying to be cute. Good job by Bopper and this team. I think it's a really good look.
Both players opting for different leads here from what they used previously. Plusle's willing to expose his Rotom really early right here, especially against something like Thunderous T, which can, with something like a Choice Specs, could do some sizable damage against that Rotom. And, Bopper not willing to expose his Thunderous T, brings out Cresselia, which is a good option against both his opponent's Pokemon. And here comes the fake out because Plusle predicted that move. And Dragon Dance from Gyarados.
Man,
He's
Gyarados,
willing to
she's
expose his
crazy.
Gyarados. Right in front of a Rotom. Let's see what Rotom's using. And Hydro Pump. So a good prediction by Bopper. Cresselia's going to take that Hydro Pump. So interesting moves there by Bopper and Plusle there.
I just
Not
don't
what I would have
understand.
expected.
Does this man have no fear? Why would you Dragon Dance in front of that? I mean, it works, I guess, but I mean, even now, he is +0 attack, +1 speed after the Intimidate. Gyarados in front of Rotom W. Like, I don't get it. Like, I'm sure there has to be a second move planned here, but does it not have Thunderbolts or what? Like, I don't understand.
Even with a helping hand, the neutral attack boost isn't going to do much to this Rotom. So I'm at a loss for
Yeah, I
words
mean,
what
it could
Bopper's
pretty
doing
much
there.
it could pretty much have Giga Impact, and you could still helping hand that, and Rotom would probably still survive and Thunderbolt it for a knockout. So unless there's something really clever I'm not seeing here, I just don't get this. But props to him for managing to get a Dragon Dance off against Rotom W either way. Pretty aggressive play there. At least he's making the right predictions, even if his responses to those correct predictions are a little confusing to me.
Maybe he hacked on Woodhammer or something like that.
That could be it. The hack check for the Nugget Bridge Invitational. It's not quite what you'd see at a live event, right? So, I mean, it'd be a little suspicious once he used it, but I mean, there'd be great shock value. I gotta give him credit for that.
Let's hope he's not hacking because we obviously do not condone that.
Please, children, no cheat devices. If you could lay off that weird app thing that you can buy to download Pokemon, don't do that either, because you will get caught, and I will laugh at you.
Long in between turns here. Plusle, he really needs to think. Is he going to continue to Hydro Pump that Cresselia like he has been doing? Let's see what these players do.
So it looks like he's going to choose to Hydro Pump Gyarados instead, who protects here, and then Cresselia gets a crit Psyshock off onto Rotom W as Plusle's own Cresselia just comes in to hang out in the other slot.
All right, so I don't know what either player's doing here. The Hydro Pump is he predicting, or is he just He doesn't have Thunderbolt. What are you thinking there?
I mean, I'm hoping that that's the answer because that would be hilarious. I've seen many Hydro Pumpless Rotom Ws, but Thunderboltless would be a first. I'm going to assume that's not the case. However, a boosted, I don't know if he would be able to knock him out with like Double Edge or like Water Gem Waterfall from here. But I think with Helping Hand, Gyarados would definitely be able to knock Rotom out from here. So Rotom's got to be careful now. He's kind of stayed on the field too long without actually Thunderbolting Gyarados, and now that's not such a good counter anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if Plusle tried to get Trick Room off here, which I'm sure Bopper also sees since, I mean, it's hard to miss the one Gyarados counter almost fainted on the field here. Plusle's going to have to play this really carefully. I think if Rotom W gets knocked out early and Gyarados can avoid Trick Room, this game's going to end in a hurry.
So Bopper's big moves paying off here somehow. I'm just at a loss for words how this is working for him.
I mean, Gyarados has been training under that waterfall in the Lake of Rage, so I think it's probably just unstoppable is probably what's going on here.
Well, it knows the move Waterfall, so it can continually train under its own attacks.
We do see the Protect from Rotom here, so like I said, Plusle plenty aware of it. He's in danger here.
He needs to, flip this around and, maybe not overpredict like he has been doing.
Yes, I mean, he makes the right play there. He gets the Protect and the Trick Room off, and at least now Gyarados is under control for now, sort of. I mean, Bopper's crazy, so he may be totally willing to leave Gyarados in here and just assume that Plusle's not going to risk that Thunderbolt. But even if Plusle does risk that Thunderbolt, 2 more Psyshocks will knock Rotom out. So yeah, a quick retreat by Gyarados here, only to come in later and clean up again. It just, I don't know. Plusle's look at that. He's gonna have to be so careful about how he deals with Rotom for the rest of this game because Gyarados is still at full health and Rotom is starting to get worn down pretty hard here. You can't lose your counter before you even weaken the sweeper on the other side, especially with Gyarados, who's probably the single most dangerous sweeper on Mr. Bopper's team. And Mr. Bopper's done a good job of protecting Gyarados so far.
These matches are exciting, but completely baffling. The last 2 matches we've seen from, Aaron Zhang choking it away to Plusle here. Now, Plusle not sure how to KO a Gyarados.
Some good plays,
and
though.
he's gonna finally bring out the Rotom for Tyranitar. And that sand is something to deal with.
Yeah, we do get the Psyshock on Thunderous T here as it switches in for Gyarados and Cresselia reverses Trick Room. So I suspect that we're going to see a revolving door of Trick Rooms the next few turns here as both sides kind of try to play chicken a little bit, hope the other side will reverse it for them to get the speed control they want. Maybe we'll get some exciting double Trick Room turns. But a good adjustment by Plusle there. He'd kind of been getting beat on the first part of the game here. But we do see him end out here. He's got 2 Pokemon that are basically full health. I've got Tyranitar out against Thundurus and Cresselia, 2 Pokemon that it counters. So much better spot for Plusle here. He's got to work hard to maintain this position because with how this game is gone, he really can't afford to take any easy damage. But at least for now, things are looking better. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gyarados come in relatively soon to intimidate Tyranitar, though he's going to have to be careful about how he does it since he doesn't want to take a bunch of unnecessary Rock Slides and Psyshocks and end up beat up like that Rotom. Looks like we won't be seeing any Trick Rooms here. And so we get the Helping Hand Grass Knot on Tyranitar. I know I just told you all that Tyranitar was a counter for Thundurus and Cresselia, but I was wrong, and I apologize. Is that Tyranitar is knocked out in a single blow by Thundurus' Grass Knot. We do get the Helping Hand up here, which will help a little bit on Plusle's side, but probably not enough. That's a huge knockout, and as Thunder is showing us that even though its usage hasn't been too high in North America lately, it can still do a ton of damage.
There's that Trick Room again. So you predicted the revolving door of Trick Rooms.
Yeah, I guess I just underestimated the risk entailing in that. Like I thought it'd be a reasonable safe. Oh, he'll just get an easy rock slide off, and nope, later Tyranitar. That's why you can never feel too confident in this game. Like, a lot of Pokemon have great coverage moves, and with moves like Helping Hand on Cresselia, I'm a huge advocate of that, and this is why. You can flip damage really quickly, especially if that Thundurus had another boosting item like Choice Specs, which I would expect is probably the case. Just really lets you dish out damage in a hurry. Thundurus also tied for the highest non-Uber special attack in the metagame, so this is why.
Yeah, Bopper seems to have an overwhelming advantage here, especially with, he's not losing much here, and Plusle is on, his heels. I'm not sure what he's going to be able to do to flip this around.
Yeah, I'm not either. I mean, that was a huge play to get that knockout. We've got these two Pokemon at pretty much full health with Hitmontop and Cresselia here, but Rotom was about 40%, and I think at this point, Plusle's just going to have a really hard time finding ways to do damage. He's got two Pokemon out here that are more support-oriented, and other than using Stone Edge, which we've seen from Hitmontop already, which is threatening poor Thundurus here, Hitmontop is going to have to lower its defenses to do damage, and that's a really dangerous thing to do when you're already losing in the game. It really can't afford to take effectively a boosted Psyshock because it's got to stick around for a few turns.
We could always see a crit fake out here, which we did see in that remake of Game 1.
We do get the fake out.
But, yeah.
But no crit.
Important turns for Plusle, and he's not going to, I don't think he's going to be able to pull this out here.
He does make the right play there. Not huge damage, but he gets a bunch of free damage on Cresselia while Mr. Bopper goes out to Tyranitar. So can't complain. It's not a huge amount of progress there, but he does about 50, 60 damage for free, and you've got to take all the free damage you can get when you're in a hole like Plusle is here. And even though it's, I think, going to be tough in the position he's in to make a whole bunch of big decisive blows to pull himself out of it, at least if he can whittle it away, maybe it'll help. He's in a tough spot here, though. I mean, obviously, Hitmontop, the natural predator of Tyranitars, could fire a close combat off here, but it'd be taking a Psyshock for its troubles. And Tyranitar has shown that it's pretty slow in the Trick Room itself, and a crunch in Cresselia's slot would either get very close or knock out Cresselia. I forget how much damage it did last time, or rather how much health it was at when it got crunched last time. Or, probably knock out the Rotom W switch with the health it's at if Plusle were to try that. So really rough spot now. Guess it's not slow enough, though. Get the Ice Beam and the close combat onto Tyranitar.
Yeah, so not good for Tyranitar here. But, of course, Hitmontop's not going to like the incoming Psyshock.
Still, I mean, you got a knockout. Can't complain about that trade at this point.
It's better than a 4-0.
He actually doesn't give anything up for it, because other than the speed control, the Twisted Dimensions returning to normal here.
We just continually revolve those doors. I'm not sure Bopper made the right play there, though, because even though he flipped the Trick Room, he lost Tyranitar, which is a good counter against Cresselia.
Oh, I agree with you. I think that was the wrong play. I feel like you've got to get that damage for him right now. Trick Room wasn't going to last that much longer anyway, so I think just getting that Psyshock out and maybe just stalling the last turn of Trick Room normally would have been a better option there to progress through the game. Because, I mean, he does have a speed advantage again, which will help him, but I don't know, we're down to 3-3 here, and we're actually pretty close on health again. Cresselia is weakened, and so is Rotom W. So, while the advantage is probably still on Mr. Bopper's side, it's not nearly as convincing as it looked previously.
Yeah, when you lose such a good Pokemon against another really good Pokemon in Cresselia, it's tough to deal with because Cresselia there, I think we've seen that it has Chesto Berry from previous matches and rounds, but not if it has Rest. So if he potentially has Rest, Bopper could be in a tight spot.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to work hard not to get worn down now. Intimidate definitely helping on Mr. Bopper's side with Gyarados here. But rough spot. I'm not completely sure how either side should be playing this one. I mean, the Trick Room game is probably still where I would look for an advantage on either side, but Plusle's going to have a hard time actually doing the damage. We still have the same issue we had at the beginning of the game where Gyarados has all of its health and its counter Rotom is weak. And if Plusle wants to, get that knockout with Rotom, he's going to have to put Trick Room back up, which is going to leave him vulnerable to Cresselia while he's trying to focus Gyarados down. But wow, Cresselia doesn't need to wait.
Yeah. Plusle's mistake of not taking out that Gyarados earlier in the game could backfire here and lead Mr. Bopper to victory.
It certainly looks like it's going to. Cresselia picks up the knockout on Hitmontop there with the Psyshock after the reduced special defense rather by close combat. And I guess that's the problem I was talking about earlier. Just to pick up that knockout, you've got to lower your defenses, and when you're losing in a game like he was before, that penalty is much greater because you can't afford to take those trades. Going from 4-3 to 3-2 usually advantaged the player that was up 4. And Rotom W wasn't even a safe switch because Psyshock would have taken it to almost no health. So he really didn't even have that option. He had to sacrifice one of the 2 Pokemon. And again, we're looking a little better on Bopper's side. I think I probably would have given up Rotom instead just because I don't think that Rotom is going to be able to successfully counter Gyarados here anyway. But we'll see if for the 3rd time in the game we get a Hydro Pump on Cresselia slot with Gyarados out, or if Rotom tries to take out Gyarados.
Oh, but, Plusle does have his Trick Room up, and Rotom, I assume, will be slower than that Gyarados. So, yeah, if he takes out that Cresselia, he's going to have the speed advantage for the rest of the game. Well, we'll see what they do here, communicating.
Yeah, pretty important turn here. I think this turn will probably decide the game. Bopper still has his edge. I wasn't super excited about how he played the Tyranitar turn, but I guess it doesn't matter too much. He still got the Stranglehold on here, and Plusle's going to have to do something pretty clever to get out of it. It definitely starts this turn. He has to make the right choice between Thunderbolting and Hydro Pumping. If he doesn't do what he needs to do this turn with Rotom W, it's probably over. So pressure's on for Plusle here. He's got to figure this one out.
Does he need to Hydro Pump, or can he just Thunderbolt?
It's all about what Bopper does on his side. If Gyarados is exposed, got to get that knockout. If it's not exposed, got to stop Cresselia from reversing the Trick Room.
But can he just, Thunderbolt the Cresselia, or is Cresselia has too much HP?
I think if he doubles, he can do it. But I think if he doubles, he can do it. So there's that option, sort of. But still, it's a matter of picking the right target.
Here comes the Ice Beam. Could potentially do something. No, he's gonna take out that Gyarados. Finally see that Thunderbolt.
And he makes the right choice, so the game continues. Keeping it exciting here for us.
Finally did it. So, I think he's finally in a good spot because even though Bopper reverses his Trick Room here, he could potentially beat what Bopper brings out easily because he's got more HP on his Cresselia now.
Yeah, we've only got
Bopper's Cresselia is threatening to be knocked out here.
So the last Pokemon is Thundurus on Bopper's side. So I think the advantage is actually in Plusle's corner now. Cresselia is just hanging on to life. Though there's still another big prediction to make this turn. At first, it might look like it's just reasonably safe on Plusle's side, but I assume a Helping Hand boosted Thunderbolt probably from Thundurus would knock Cresselia out here. So this game is far from over, right? Both sides still need to make the right move here. We don't want, if you're on Plusle's side, either of your Pokemon can get knocked out here, but not both of them. So you have to kind of make the right call as far as I don't know. I think he might be able to double Thundurus and be fine, actually. But still, there's threat going from Mr. Bopper's side onto both of Plusle's Pokemon, so neither of them are safe because of the additional threat by Helping Hand. It'll be interesting to see if we learn Thundurus item for sure here. I thought based on the damage of Tyranitar, it was probably Specs, and if it is, not having the option of protecting here really limits Mr. Bopper. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, this is really big moves for both players. They both need to play this out perfectly. Uh, if Bopper does take this, he is our Nugget Bridge Invitational champion. And here comes the helping hand from Cresselia. Like you predicted, let's see. The Thunderous T is going to go for that Cresselia with the helping hand Thunderbolt. Potentially specs and takes that knockout. Here comes the Hydro Pump. Targets the Thunderous. Will he pick up the knockout? Yes, he picks up the knockout. Now it's down to Sand. Will Sand knock that out?
Not quite. Cresselia hanging on by the skin of its teeth.
There we go, 2 HP. We're down to the wire here.
I think it'll be all for naught here. We did see Rotom W use Protect during the resets there. So unless Cresselia's got a healing move, which isn't too common, we're going to see a third game here.
Exciting best of 3 matches here. Yep, here we go. We're going to be going to a Game 3, Mr. Bopper and Plusle. Plusle wins this one, tied up at 1-1.
Yeah, you see some important lessons there. Plusle learning from his previous opponents. His opponent was at a health where he could feint from Sandstorm, and he clicked the move Protect. So great job in learning from Aaron's mistakes there. Seriously though, great game.
Yeah, both players played it out. Even though Plusle made some questionable moves with his Thunderbolts, he finally eked it out, and big props to him because I think he played fantastically there.
Yeah, I thought so too. I don't know. I'm sure everyone picked up. I was a little flustered by his unwillingness to knock out Gyarados there, since Gyarados was just so threatening early in the game. But he put himself in a difficult spot by losing the first few turns, and then he played the remainder of the game really well. I think from the turn when Rotom W first, or when Trick Room first got put up in Game 2, I thought from then on, Plusle was great. Almost every move he made was the best move he could have made. He got some important knockouts, and he deserved to win that game. Great game by Mr. Bopper, too. Like I said, he got that advantage to begin with, but Plusle just made a few better predictions in the second half of that game, was able to turn things around there. A really exciting finish, and you got to love a game where it's like there's big predictions in the last 2 turns that lead to the game ending the way it did. Like that game, it seemed like Mr. Bopper had that game in his clutches the whole way, and then right at the end, Plusle turns it around, makes some great predictions, and it's just the stuff I love to see.
Yeah, exciting games as always. You see some of the most interesting matches come in the best of 3 because of the mind reading and all that stuff going on, and you could take more risks because it is a best of 3. This is it right here, though. This is essentially a best of 1. The winner will be crowned Nugget Bridge Invitational champion for the 2nd season. Are we gonna see more of the same from Plusle? Does he need to keep that Rotom out?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it didn't change much. I think I keep beating on this, but Rotom, it's important. I think that's really the one Pokemon he has to use, but he probably made the right choices last game. I was a little surprised that he chose not to go the Escavalier route last time, but I think he proved that it was the right way to play the game. I would be surprised if he doesn't, or if he makes too many big changes, and I don't actually think Mr. Bopper needs to make too many great changes either. Most of the Pokemon he's not picking, most notably Excadrill, wouldn't have a very good matchup anyway. So, I mean, he's definitely right to leave Excadrill on the bench. He could think about using a Moongus, but it's another Pokemon where it's iffy. It'd be good against Rotom and sort of Hitmontop and sort of Tyranitar, but it's Cresselia bait. So there's that, especially because we've seen the Chesterberry on Cresselia. But he could think about a Moongus if he wants to mix it up a little bit here. Maybe protect Gyarados from Rotom W a bit, since Amoonguss is pretty much the most obnoxious Pokemon in the world to play against if you're using Rotom W. So there's that option, but probably not too many changes here. I think both players are probably happy with the Pokemon they've been picking, and it's just a matter of hitting those predictions to make those Pokemon choices pay off.
Yeah, both players. I expect to see more of the same, like you. We'll see what happens. I do think that Amoonguss, like you said, could potentially be here because Plusle hasn't shown a willingness to go to his Thundurus and taunt.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Part of the whole best of 3 thing is by making the same Pokemon choices over multiple games, You encourage your Pokemon to pick the Pokemon that are best against what you've been using rather than against your whole team. So it opens you up a bit. And maybe if you'd been picking Amoonguss these previous games, we'd be seeing more of Thunderous Eye from Plusle. But since we haven't seen that, there's a little more of an opportunity to whip Amoonguss out than there might normally be. So he does have that option if he thinks it's worth it to change it up. It'll be interesting to see if he chooses to make that decision or if he just kind of sticks with the strategy that he's been using so far. I think based on the first two games, I'd be a little hesitant to throw too many curveballs if I'm Mr. Bopper, because I probably feel like I should have won both the first two games. But if he thinks it'll give him an advantage, you've got to do it, especially because if Plusle, for whatever reason, were to decide to fall back more on the Trick Room thing, I think Amoonguss is better against that mode. But given that he didn't go that route in the game that he won, it would be a little bit of a strange prediction to expect him to go back to it in Game 3.
Yeah, this is a really important game for both of them. They seem to be thinking it out. I'm not going to rush into this. And as I say that, the game's about to start. We'll see
Time to
what
rush.
leads they decide to go with. Yeah, they want to rush it in now.
It's time.
As soon as I say things like that. Commentators curse.
That's why we're never allowed to say the phrase critical hit.
All right, well, here's Plusle's leads. Looks like he's going back to the same well that he did before. It worked kind of before, and here we go. Here's the Amoonguss. Scott, what do you think of the situation?
I'm kind of excited, especially because he did get the same leads as the previous game. And I think Amoonguss is fantastic against both of these Pokemon. But about what we expected, I think. Plusle, exactly the same as last game after a win. Mr. Bopper, maybe feeling like he needed to change things up a little bit after a loss. Amoonguss was the only really viable choice if he wanted to make some changes after the previous game. So I'm not too surprised to see it out here, especially I think if he was going to bring Amoonguss, leading it was a good choice this time because it was likely that Plusle would do something similar with his leads in Game 3 as he did in Game 2. And these are the Pokemon you want Amoonguss out here for, not Cresselia. So you get a good turn here where Amoonguss is matched up with what you want it matched up with, and maybe it can help Thundurus get some damage off to start off the game. I think Thundurus has been the most important damage dealer for him so far, even though it's not the best type matchup, just because each game has gotten like one big KO. So hopefully he can get one more here for Mr. Bopper.
Yeah, we see the power of Choice Specs Thundurus right here because, every game it's gotten a huge KO and could potentially get more here because, that special attack is sky high. Yeah, they both need to make smart decisions here. Here comes Plusle and his fake out on Thundurus. That was heavy, critical hit. And here comes Rage Powder. It's not going to be a good turn for Bopper here.
Yeah, we get the Hydro Pump and Shroom there too, so he takes a bunch of damage for nothing, and that is pretty much always a bad play in Pokemon. I mean, it would have been a better play if he hadn't got a double critical hit against him, which was a really frustrating way to start the game, I'm sure. But the Rage Powder on the fake out is rough. Not necessarily the wrong play, just because at least it prevented Thundurus from being knocked out from the Hydro Pump. Though, seeing that play out the way it did, I would expect that it's reasonably likely Bopper didn't bring many good Hydro Pump switch-ins in the back. So there's a good chance he may have benched Gyarados this time. But if he didn't, I'm sure Tyranitar or Excadrill are one of the other two Pokemon. So he didn't feel safe switching Thundurus in there because he knew he was going to have to eat the fake out if he stayed in there and probably wouldn't have taken all that free damage otherwise.
Now, was he playing too much for the big play because of the Rage Powder and, Specs Thundurus?
I mean, maybe. I think if he was...
Did he reach too hard?
I think if he was reaching for this turn. He had to have known that he wasn't going to get anything last turn. So if he wanted to make a play, he was setting up for the second turn here. I mean, he's expecting to take half as much damage in both the Pokemon that he did, which probably messed with his plans a little bit, but this is the turn where he's going to get the free attack, so he's got to make something happen here to make that worth it. Hopefully he takes a second. I see him move pretty quickly there, but hopefully he composed himself before he did so. I know it's easy to get thrown off by the double crit thing, but really important turn for him here to make the right play.
So he's probably playing ahead, like you said, for this turn. So I'm not gonna, harp on him because he rushed through that turn because he knows what he wants to do. He's gonna do it. He went hard on this turn, and here's a Volt Switch, which does sizable damage to that bulky Hitmontop. And he's gonna go to something. Here's the Gyarados, big Gyarados, which counters both of Plusle's Pokemon out here, which is I like this move from Mr. Bopper.
Yes, we see the Spore going on Cresselia, eating that Chester Berry up too. So, I mean, at least he eats it up. But the trick with Volt Switch there, you use it in the middle of a turn to continue momentum. But part of the important part of getting to switch in the middle of the turn is it makes it much more predictable what sort of attack you're about to get hit with, so you can switch your resistance more easily. That's not what happens there. We go from one flying Pokemon to another, both of which obviously are weak to Stone Edge. So even though Gyarados takes significantly less and saves Thundurus from the knockout because of its higher or greater bulk and Intimidate, it still takes pretty good damage there. Probably not the best Volt Switch target, but like I mentioned in the first turn, it just seems like Mr. Bopper probably doesn't have the defensive typing this game that he needs.
So maybe selecting that Amoonguss was a mistake, you think?
I mean, it may be. I think it was either that was the mistake or perhaps the order he picked his Pokemon in. But he just seems to be having a hard time of finding the right pivot to go to reduce the damage he's taking. And he's way behind in the damage trade now. He's got 3 Pokemon that are all around half health now, whereas the only Pokemon on Plusle's side who's even been hit by attack is Hitmontop with that Volt Switch. So it's similar to Plusle in Game 2. Now Mr. Bopper's the one in a big hole, and we'll have to see if he can make the same sort of comeback that Plusle made last game.
Yeah, with a team, even though we said it was pretty bulky, it lacks, the bulk of a really hardcore Trick Room team that you could potentially see from Bopper. So like you said, there's some issues, and Bopper's on his heels because of the offensive nature of his team.
Big turn here, though. He's got to at least make something happen to get some progress.
He's not willing to. He's ready to go. Plusle's taking his time though.
Yeah, I mean, we did get the attack off there. I think you're lagging a bit still, but Gyarados uses Waterfall, knocks out the Hitmontop. So at least we get on the board for Mr. Bopper here. But Trick Room going up on Plusle's side of the field to reverse the speed a little bit, and Tyranitar coming out for Mr. Bopper. So I'm assuming we're going to see a Scavalier, and there it is. So Scavalier managed to get on the field at the same time as Gyarados, which you'd think is bad conceptually just because Gyarados, the counter for a Scavalier on this team, but important because it means it'll be at least 2 turns before Escavalier can be intimidated, which is some time to get some free attacks off or substitute up to block the Intimidate.
Plusle is an overwhelming advantage because he got this Escavalier in pretty quickly and easily because of that knockout.
Yeah, one important thing to note too, even though there was all that damage on Mr. Bopper's side of the field, Shroom did get the switch out there, so Regenerator, assuming it has it, which I don't know why it wouldn't, it does heal a lot of the damage it had taken up. So we're getting closer on like total health damage done, I guess, since even though 3 of Plusle's Pokemon are essentially at full health, he did lose one of them, whereas Mr. Bopper's damage is spread out a little bit. So it'll be important for Plusle to use this Trick Room here to get some damage done. There's no way to reverse Trick Room this game for Mr. Bopper since he opted not to bring Cresselia, instead bringing Gyarados, Thundurus, Amoonguss, and Tyranitar. So Escavalier is going to have to take advantage of the fact it's going to get to keep its Trick Room and get some knockouts here.
What is the potential of a Escavalier sweep here now?
I mean, I think probably not very high. We do see Amoonguss switching into what I expected was going to be a Psyshock in Gyarados' slot, but instead it's an Ice Beam at Tyranitar, while Escavalier tries to get the sub up, but I don't know if it's going to survive that Rock Slide, and it doesn't. So not a great turn for Plusle there. Mr. Bopper slowly turning things around, I guess.
And of course he's going to get that switch into Gyarados to intimidate this Escavalier, which puts Bopper in a bad position again.
Yeah, assuming he wants to. He's got some options here. Obviously, Mega Horn would be really devastating, and Plusle can choose either target for it here. So he's going to be Mr. Bopper's going to want to be careful playing around that. But Creselia's already eaten its Chesterberry, so he could spore it if he wants to. Rage Powder's available if he wants to try to get some damage down with Tyranitar, though I can't imagine him going that route. The safest play would be to try to, either spore if he predicts. I guess he's got to predict the Scavalier's move, I guess is the point here. You want to get Gyarados in one slot and make the more appropriate choice of attacking or sporing, depending on if Scavalier is going to attack itself or substitute again. And then on Plusle's side, it's just the other way around. Got to try and get the Mega Horn off to knock something out here, since he's in danger of falling behind pretty significantly if Mr. Bopper can get control again with Gyarados and one of Amoonguss and Tyranitar on the field.
There's a lot going on in this game, and I guess it can go either way.
Yeah, a great series here. In every game, it just seems like one big play either way could turn it around. Right? Gyarados coming in here just like we predicted.
Yeah. There's that Gyarados switch. You got to see what this Amoonguss does now, because it could potentially be a Scavalier bait or do something really big.
Looks like the answer is probably going to be big.
Yeah, it's probably going to do something big. Gyarados takes that Mega Horn, puts it into the red, and here's the spore into the Cresselia, so Amoonguss makes a big play this game, this turn, and Bopper gets that Gyarados in. Even though it is in the red, he did get the Intimidate off onto that Scavalier.
I'm a little torn on this. Gyarados is weak, so in theory, the play is advantage Bopper, or advantage Plusle rather, but Gyarados isn't really what you need to knock out this game. This game's just going to be all about trying to weaken everything enough that Tyranitar can come in and finish everybody off. And I feel like Amoonguss is the more important target to get rid of to enable that to happen. So Gyarados' days are numbered, but I can't help but feel like I don't mind this spot if I'm Bopper.
Well, Scavalier is a really slow Pokemon, could potentially, with a good roll, knock out that Amoonguss.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to. Like, he's just got to get knockouts during this Trick Room. It's going to be really tough to deal with Tyranitar once it comes back in here, given what's left on Plusle's side of the field, especially if he can use something like Amoonguss to let it get a Dragon Dance off. So it's just the timer's ticking really hard for Plusle here. He's got to make plays in a hurry.
Both players in tight spot in the final game of a best of 3.
See the Mega Horn on Escavalier hitting Amoonguss, and Cresselia getting the one-turn wake-up and finishing off Amoonguss with Ice Beam. That's going to be huge.
Huge for Plusle there. He's getting the knockouts that he needs with his Escavalier.
Yeah, I mean, it's so frequent that the games involving these Pokemon with Spore come down to how long the sleep turns are, and that one was a big bounce in Plusle's favor. Gyarados is down to just a sliver of health. One more turn of Sand will finish it off, and the clock is ticking the other way now. I mean, that'd be the second knockout for Plusle once Gyarados goes down, assuming it does, though Mr. Bopper may choose to keep it alive a little bit longer for a last Intimidate. But we've got Gyarados and Escavalier Cresselia rather, extremely low, which should bring both sides down to their last two Pokemon. Escavalier and Rotom for Plusle, and Tyranitar and Thundurus, I believe, for Bopper. So probably advantage Bopper there. Assuming it can get it safely anyway.
It's really going to come down to the wire here. A lot of it depends on both players' moves. If they pick the right moves, they win. But like you said, there's a lot of risk involved in getting the right move.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one-turn sleep really makes the pressure a little, I guess, not that much tougher for Bopper, but it makes things more difficult than it should have been. I think even if he'd only gotten 2 turns there, he probably could have closed that out pretty well. But there's a little more threat now. Fortunately for him, it's not the scarf tie we thought it was, which would have made it a lot easier for Plusle to turn this around. But I don't know. I feel like we said that Escavalier had to get some big knockouts during this trick room, and he did get a few, but I just don't think it's going to be enough.
Big games, and Plusle, he continues to think it out. He doesn't want to make a mistake, and he's going to opt for a substitute with his Escavalier and Ice Beam on the Gyarados. Questionable move there.
I think it didn't work, but I think it's actually still the right play. It's the last turn of Trick Room. As much as it would have been nice for him to get the damage on Tyranitar with Mega Horn there, it wouldn't have knocked it out anyway because of Intimidate. And I feel like you've got to try to get the sub up so you can do something after Trick Room expires. If Tyranitar had protected there and he had used Mega Horn, the game would straight up have been over. And given that that was probably the most likely play from Bopper's side, I think it was the right thing to do for Plusle there, to at least try to make a play that would give him a chance to stay in the game. I don't think it did keep him in the game, but it was like, at least he didn't just take it. You got to try and keep yourself in the game no matter how bad it looks. But it looks pretty bad now. We've got faster Tyranitar and faster Thundurus staring down like half HP Escavalier and almost knocked out Cresselia, with the only Pokemon in the back being Rotom W. It's going to be rough now. It's going to try to find a way to dodge a Rock Slide, probably.
He's got to play the percentage game here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what the players have been doing all series, right? I mean, a lot of Pokemon in this matchup that kind of has some mitigated risks to them. You've got the sleep from Amoonguss. There's been a lot of crazy predictions involving Gyarados and Rotom W. So, I mean, there's a certain amount of chance taking, either by your opponents making their most likely decisions or not, and then the RNG themselves. So it looks like it's probably going to be if the RNG bails out Plusle if he gets his way out of this one. But still, it's all about the math in this game.
And like we continue to say, Plusle just wants to think this out. Bopper's ready to just make his moves, but Plusle needs to think about his best move, and he's taking his time. He's not going to rush. And here we go. He goes with the Protect, which at the end of the day is probably just going to be a wash and not really do much.
Speaking of making the best moves there, no Rock Slide.
Yeah, he's not gonna play the percentages. He wants to go for the 100%, right, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way you do it. Like, I like that play. He does take the safe knockout on Cresselia there. I feel like if I was him, I would actually have knocked out Cresselia with Thundurus and Dragon Danced. I don't think Escavalier was threatening a knockout there, and he could probably have used that boost, but still, he ends up in a good position. We're 2-2 here, about the same health on both sides. Rotom W definitely have to be the key for Plusle's side here. It's got good typing for this situation, but like the Pokemon on, I guess particularly Tyranitar, is just healthy enough that it's going to be a big problem. And Escavalier not being able to protect this turn means like it's probably seeing its last full turn here.
He's got to hit those Hydro Pumps, and with an 85% move, we know they don't like to hit when you need them to.
Yeah, I mean, Rock Slide Adventures Part 2 here. It'll be rough. Rock Slide and Hydro Pump. They got two of the most frustrating moves in the game. If only there was a Draco Meteor out here.
And maybe a Stone Edge as well. You can't. And a Meteor Mash. I mean,
a lot of those moves.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk involved, but when you hit them, they could potentially win games.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting here, too. The big threat, obviously, on Plusle's side is Rotom W. So the temptation is to double target it, but you don't want to take a Mega Horn for free either, especially because Escavalier has his Protect burn from last turn, so it's a 50-50. And I guess I should not point out that at least we do have Mega Horn, another 85% accurate move. So just Thundurus here is letting us down. It should be using Thunder instead. Come on, Thundurus. Looks like Plusle is predicting that double target, though. But he doesn't get it. See, Thunder is finishing off Scavalier with Thunderbolt, and we do see Dragon Dance from Tyranitar. A turn after I thought it was going to come, but we got it. Tyranitar getting his swag on to finish off the tournament here.
He likes to dance Gangnam Style. And I think, does that essentially wraps it up for Bopper here? Is there any out for Plusle?
I think Thunderous is faster than Rotom, so no. I think Crunch and Thunderbolt picks up this KO, and Plusle played a great tournament here, but Mr. Bopper is going to be your champion of the second Nugget Bridge Invitational.
And there goes the Crunch. And, of course, our Thunder takes the knockout on Rotom. Mr. Bopper, your second Nugget Bridge Invitational champion. Plusle played a great game. Mr. Bopper played an even better one. Both players, excelled to get here, and we got a great best-of-3 finish there. Scott, what's your takeaway?
And I hope the audience enjoyed that one as much as I did. Now, we get a lot of best-of-3s at the end of tournaments where we kind of have to pretend they were great series, but maybe they weren't. But this one was fantastic, I thought. Like, each game could have gone either way. The end of Game 2 and the end of Game 3 I thought were really tense. There were times where I thought the players who won those games were going to lose. But yeah, momentum swung back and forth. It was a great series. I didn't think there were a lot of big mistakes by either side. It just came down to making the right predictions and managing the game the right way. And two fun teams, I thought, with Plusle using a little bit more standard stuff, but still fun Pokemon for the most part. Some stuff we don't always see, like the Thunderous being a little bit different than usual, and Mr. Bopper obviously using a really interesting team. And you couldn't ask for more than this in the finals of a tournament like this. A great match by both players, and I hope everyone enjoyed the show.
Yeah, again, big thanks to all the players that came out and participated all season that led up to this final match in the Invitational. Congratulations to everyone who got to play in the Invitational. We'll be here next season. There'll be some changes to how it goes, but be ready. There's going to be more exciting matches in the future. I'm Paul, and that's Scott. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.